So we're about to celebrate Shavuot, and we're going to read the parsha in Yisro of the Aseres Dibros, and the Torah spells out today's date. B'chodesh hashlishi l'tzeis b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, b'yom hazeh ba'u midbar Sinai. That on the third month, on Rosh Chodesh, on this very first day of the third month, so this is when we encamped in Har Sinai for purposes of receiving the Torah. So that's today. So today's date is recorded in the Torah, specifically in connection with Kabbalas Torah. And the pasuk says, Bayom Hazeh. Why does it say Bayom Hazeh? Rashi says, Sheyiyu divrei Torah chadashim alecha kilo hayom nasna. That the words of Torah should always be fresh and new in your eyes, not like it was just given on this specific day. That's why, with respect to the other Regalim in the year, when we speak about Pesach or Sukkot, so the Torah gives specific dates, the 15th day of Nisan, the 15th day of Tishrei. There's no specific date that's given with respect to Shavuot. So we're told Shiva Shavuot Tispalach, you're supposed to count 7 days, 7 weeks, and then on Yom Chamishi, on the 50 and the Tispu Chamishim Yom, after 50 days, that's when Shavuot occurs. But there's no specific calendaric date. So some of the Mefarshim explain there's no specific calendaric date because Torah is not confined to a specific date. We celebrate the giving of the Torah, and the day that it was given, the sixth day of Sivan, we celebrate on the 7th day of Sivan as well. In Chutz La'aretz, so Machlokes, Rabbi Yossi, and the Chachamim in the Gemara was the Torah actually given on the 6th day of the Sivan, the 7th day of Sivan. But Shavuos is not dependent on a specific day. Why? Because it's just kind of a centerpiece of the experience of Kabbalas Torah, of receiving the Torah. But you have to view it as Bayom Hazeh, that every single day is the day of Kabbalas Torah. Every day has to be viewed as a day in which we renew our covenant and we recommit ourselves to Kabbalas Torah. So it's interesting that we're celebrating kind of, as Rabbi Mostavsky said, a delayed gathering to commemorate Yom Yerushalayim a couple of days later here on Rosh Chodesh, because really the way that the Torah presents Kabbalas Torah, it really depended on where they were coming from as well. Because the next pasuk says, "Vayisume Refidim," that they traveled from Refidim. Vayavo midbar Sinai. Before the Bnei Yisrael encamped in Har Sinai, the previous encampment was in Refidim. So the Rashi asks, but we knew they were in Refidim. So it's to teach you that there's a hekesh, there's some sort of juxtaposition that teaches us a lesson. Hakesh nesiyasan merefidim. What were we leaving from before we got to Har Sinai? The biyasan midbar Sinai. Ma biyaska midbar Sinai b'tshuva. Just like we entered Har Sinai with a sense of tshuva. It says, "Vayichan sham yisa neged ahar." Everybody was getting along with each other. They repaired any kind of past grievances. There was tshuva vis-a-vis HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Apne siyasan merefidim b'tshuva. So too, when we left our previous location, it was in a spirit of tshuva. If you want to be zoche to Har Sinai, you want to be zoche to a proper Kabbalas Torah, so it has to be in a spirit of tshuva, that you're taking with you the lessons of what you just experienced in the most positive way in order to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So in that sense, we know that there are no coincidences when it comes to the Jewish calendar. The fact that this celebration of Yom Yerushalayim, of the miracle of the 6-day war, whatever anyone's opinion happens to be about the Medina, certain parts of the community you mention Yom Yerushalayim, you say Happy Yom Yerushalayim. Other parts of the community you mention Yom Yerushalayim, and I get your head cut off. So you're not supposed to, necessarily talk about in front of everybody the idea of celebrating the Medina. Not everybody holds by the Medina. Okay, we understand. Elu ve'elu, there are different approaches about how we relate to the significance of the establishment of a Medina in Eretz Yisrael. Here at the CRC, we do believe that it does have religious significance. That's our own opinion. However, certainly, when it comes to our recognition of this Nes Nigla, this unbelievable miracle that was performed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu during the Six-Day War, when it looked like we were going to get blotted out from the map, that all the Jews in Eretz Yisrael thought that this is going to be the end. It would be have catastrophic consequences, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us in a fashion where nobody, has seen, for the most part, such obvious miracles. It was almost like the slaying of the army of Sancherib that the Tanakh describes. So without any kind of army intervention, you wake up in the morning and everybody is dead. Basically, so we had a similar biblical style miracle occur in connection with Yom Yerushalayim. But what are we supposed to take from it as we approach Chodesh Sivan and we celebrate Rosh Chodesh? So we're told everything is in the Torah. Everything is in the Torah. So this is the lesson that Ma B'Yasan L'Midbar Sinai B'Tshuva. So when you accept Kabbalah Satorah, it's Kabbalah Satorah. It's supposed to be in the spirit of tshuva, returning, coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Av Nesiyasan Merfidim B'Tshuva. So just like so too, when we went away from Merfidim, when we come from Yom Yerushalayim, it has to be in a spirit of tshuva. What do we learn from Yom Yerushalayim? What are we supposed to carry with us? The Rambam famously says that when it came to the original Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, so after there was the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, certainly the first time around, so the Kedusha was not a permanent Kedusha. It was a Kedusha L'Shaita, V'lo Kidsha L'Asid Lavo, and it wasn't established as a permanent Kedusha. The holiness went away when we were vanquished at the end of Chorban Abayis. Second Beis HaMikdash, different story. But he says that even when it came to the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash, one type of Kedusha did not go away. What was the Kedusha that did not go away? So the Rambam says that when it came to the Beis HaMikdash itself, the Mikdash of Yerushalayim, Kidsha Rishayna, Kidsha La'asid Lavo, that even the original Kedusha was not terminated upon the destruction of the land or even the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Why is that? The Pisha Kedushas HaMikdash Yerushalayim Mipnei Hashchina, because the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash, and the Rambam interestingly extends the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash not only to the Beis HaMikdash, but he says the Pisha Kedushas HaMikdash. What's the next word? Yerushalayim. The Rambam always connected Yerushalayim to the Beis HaMikdash. Yerushalayim is an extension of the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash, the highest sanctity, the Holy of Holies of coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why, according to the Rambam, when we speak about blowing the shofar, for example, only in the Beis HaMikdash, when you have a Rosh Hashanah that falls down on Shabbos, so the Rambam says this applies not only to the Beis HaMikdash, it applies to Yerushalayim as well. The Rambam in the Perish of Mishnayos, although not the Mishnah Torah, says the same thing with respect to shaking the lulav on Shabbos. That's something that was done only in the Beis HaMikdash. The Rambam says that this would also be true of all of Yerushalayim. All of Yerushalayim, it would be done on Shabbos as well. So the Rambam clearly makes this connection that the Kedusha, the Beis HaMikdash, extends to Yerushalayim, and he says that Kedusha never evaporated. Why? Because the Kedusha is based on the divine spirit. The Kedusha is based Mipnei Hashchina, and the Rambam has three very important words. So Shechina Eina B'Teila. Shechina can never be nullified. Once you have the Shechina in a place, so even when it becomes desolate, so that Shechina is permanent. The Shechina can never ever be nullified. So according to the Rambam's understanding, the Kedusha of Yerushalayim, when we get Yerushalayim back, it's not just that we have more territory, that we're celebrating, oh, this is great, we have more of the original land of Eretz Yisrael. It's that we're a step closer to the Beis HaMikdash. We're a step closer to a Hashras Hashchina. So that's really what we're celebrating. The Ramban writes that the reason why Sefer Shmos is referred to as Sefer HaGeula, this is the book of redemption. What redemption? We didn't make it to Eretz Yisrael by the end of Sefer Shmos. It says it's because the Mishkan was constructed, and the Mishkan was a place of Hashras HaShechina. The ultimate Geula is Hashras HaShechina. When we celebrate Eretz Yisrael, so we're not celebrating sovereignty for the sake of sovereignty. We're celebrating the ability to have a Hashras HaShechina, the ability to reconnect with the Shechina. The Makom HaMikdash, the Makom of Yerushalayim represents an opportunity for us to reconnect with the Shechina. So on one very basic level, the celebration of Yom Yerushalayim is a celebration that we can have a greater realization of what? Of Ki Mitzion Teitzei Sora Udvar Hashem Yerushalayim. One thing that occurred in the aftermath of the 1967 war. I remember I went to Eretz Yisrael for the 50th anniversary celebration of Yom Yerushalayim, and I heard a number of speakers at that point in time. It was just an unbelievable, fantastic experience. I learned so many things. I learned that the vast majority of Eretz Yisrael doesn't celebrate Yom Yerushalayim. That was a revelation to me. I was a part of the Mizrahi delegation. So I thought, okay, I'll be part of the Mizrahi delegation, and we'll join with all the other delegations. Then I discovered, no, Mizrahi delegation is the only delegation. It's the only group that celebrates Yom Yerushalayim.
What about the seculars?
Secular do not celebrate Yom Yerushalayim, right? And the non-Mizrahi Haredi also don't celebrate Yom Yerushalayim. So it's not even officially a national holiday. I thought it's officially a national. It's not a Yom Masu is a national holiday. Yom Yerushalayim is not a national holiday. Lots of people just walking around doing their regular business. You go to work, so even the people who might be Dati Lumi, so they'll say Hallel and Shul in the morning, then they go to work. So it doesn't have the same feeling of a holiday atmosphere as is created, for example, on Yom Ha'atzmaut. And yet there are many poskim who are of the opinion that Yom Yerushalayim is of a higher degree of religious significance, because it's not just a national secular holiday, it's specifically a religious holiday. It's a holiday that we're celebrating the sense of a renewed Hashras HaShechina. So one of the speakers, Yossi Klein Halevi, who's a famous writer, he's written in a lot of different publications, even general secular publications. I think he's a Frum Yid. So he was speaking about how he remembered that in the aftermath of, he was on the college campuses at that point in time in 1967, that there was a totally different spirit on the American college campuses. People started wearing their yarmulkes. They started wearing their tzitzis out. There was just a much greater pride, not just in being a Jew, but in demonstrating your frumkeit, your religious observance in public. There was just a religious renaissance in the aftermath of the 6-Day War. This is what led to a greater degree of Torah commitment and Torah learning in Chutz La'aretz, to a flowering and efflorescence of Torah institutions, of yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael. So it really was the beginning of a higher level of realization of Ki Mitzion Teitzei Sora Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. So this is what we have to take out of Yom Yerushalayim, is an appreciation for the greater amount of Hashras HaShechina that then can fortify us as we enter into Rosh Chodesh Sivan and we prepare for the celebration of Shavuot and Kabbalas Torah. And the last thing that I'll mention is that the part of the tshuva process is this returning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But part of the tshuva process, a large part of what Yerushalayim is all about, is that it is a recommitment for a sense of respect that we give to all members of Klal Yisrael, a sense of friendship and a sense of togetherness. We know that one of the references when we talk about Yerushalayim is Yerushalayim HaBnuyah Ki'ir Shechuva La Yachdav. What does it mean? It's a city that brings us all together. Yerushalmi Chagiga says, She Osek Kol Yisrael L'Chaverim, that it makes the entire Jewish people into Chaverim, into friends and into colleagues and into individuals who have a sense of togetherness with each other. Similarly, the Yerushalmi in Maseches Baba Kama says, Yerushalayim HaBnuyah Ir Shemechaberes Yisrael Zeh LaZeh. It's the year, the city that brings together all Jews with each other. We know that on the Regalim, that everybody was allowed to eat with each other. Those who were viewed as Amei Haaretz, those who were viewed as untrustworthy individuals who weren't so careful about eating all of their food with a requisite level of taro, didn't have the CRC, recommended symbol the rest of the year, When it came to the regalim, they got the recommended symbol from the CRC. That's what it says. Because everybody would have the sense of togetherness. But what does togetherness mean? A togetherness which is based upon a hashras hashchina, recognition that we have to do everything in the holiest altaras hakodesh fashion possible. So everybody would be scrupulous about keeping all of the laws of purity and all of the laws of taras hakodesh on the same level, and therefore everybody was able to eat with each other. That's probably why the Gemara says that Yerushalayim was destroyed al shehemidu divreim al din Torah. So it says because they followed dinei Torah. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? It's the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Yerushalayim was destroyed because they follow Torah. We want people to follow Torah. It says no. It's because al shehemidu divreim al din Torah v'lo asu lefnim mishur sadin. Because everybody wanted to stand on ceremony to follow the strict letter of the law. If they were entitled, somebody owed them money, they're entitled to $1,000. They didn't care that the person was in dire straits, that the person was almost destitute, that they had a family to support. They said, no pshara. I'm not making any compromises. I'm not going to go above and beyond the letter of the law. They didn't have a sense of kindness and compassion towards each other. That's why Yerushalayim was destroyed, because it wasn't fulfilling its purpose in terms of bringing everybody together. Yerushalayim is referred to as the first reference we have is Malki Tzedek Ir Shalem. Melech Shalem. Malki Tzedek was the Melech of Shalem. It's called Shalem, a place of Shalom. It's supposed to be an ear that brings everybody together, a sense of completeness, that everybody has a sense of togetherness. That's one aspect of Yerushalayim. And the other aspect of Yerushalayim is the Yeru. What's the Yeru? Behar Hashem Yera'eh. That's what Avraham Avinu called the place that would be Yerushalayim, Behar Hashem Yera'eh. So the Yerushalayim is a combination of the sense of the reverence for the Hashras Hashchina, that's the Yeru, and the togetherness of the entire Klal Yisrael, that's the Shalem. Altogether, it's Yerushalayim. So that is what the pasuk says, that we were worthy of Kabbalah Satorah because we brought that Hashras Hashchina with us when we entered into Har Sinai and Moshe Kodesh Sivan, and then by then we were able to reach the level of Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar Ki Ish Echad B'Lev Echad, that everybody was able to be on the same page, everybody was united in heart, united in spirit. We have a sense of all being committed towards a Kadosh Baruch Hu, of being reinforced through the miracles that a Kadosh Baruch Hu performs for us, of being able to have access to the Shechina of Yerushalayim, to the Torah of Yerushalayim. So then that should also fortify us to also have the sense of togetherness, that we can all join forces to be ready together with the rest of Klal Yisrael to have a full-fledged Kabbalah Satorah, and we should take the spirit into Shavuos, and we should be Zocher. Yishlai Meircha Barachim Tashu. V'sishkan V'socha Kasher Dibart. Amen.